The Monoposto Championship heads out onto circuit at Donington Park for what will be their 13th and final round of the 2021 Championship season. Well, whilst some class championships have already been decided, there are still some up for grabs in this race. The likes of the Mono F3 category. Lee Fern leads the standings, but is only, 9 points ahead of Neil Harrison. And whereas Neil Harrison will line up towards the sharp end of the grid, Lee Fern will find himself much further down with work to do. We've also got still up for grabs, mathematically, the Mono 2000 class, which is Bryn Tootle leading that by Terry Clark. But that could come down to dropped scores in reality that we need to look towards in that one. And we should also potentially see Jared Wood head towards the championship in the Mono 2000 Classic element. We saw earlier on today Mono 1400 secured by the car that in this race will start from pole position, which is Jason Timms. So this is the last round of the championship, multi-class championship. So Mono F3 caters for commercially built chassis designed by the manufacturer for Formula 3 in reality, 2007 season or earlier, or those that were part of Formula Renault, running to the 2008 or 2006 regulations. Mono 2000s is for alloy or steel chassis 2001 or earlier, or 1999 or earlier if it's a Formula Renault, or if they are carbon fibre and Formula 3 cars, it's 96 or earlier. Mono Classic 2000 is for aluminium or steel cars 93 or earlier, plus Vauxhall Lotus cars sit in that category, or if it's a carbon fibre chassis, it's got to be 92 or earlier. Mono 1800, it's got to be a 2017 or earlier chassis, or a Formula Ford that would have raced in the championship in the UK, for instance, that we had between 2006 and 2012. Then we see Mono 1600, is for 1600cc engined cars, 2007 season or earlier they would have been built for. That, though, for this year does encompass Scarab Mark V cars, so those are the things used in the likes of Formula V or European Formula V, but they have to use the Type 1 Volkswagen front axle and 1300cc engine. Mono 1000 is for motorcycle engine cars, and Mono 1400 also for motorcycle engine cars, but of a larger capacity. Let's guide you through the grid then, the way they line up for the final race of the season. Jeremy Timms starts from pole position, and it's Chris Woodhouse in the Dallara that sits alongside. Row 2 of the grid is Carl O'Brien and Dan Gore. The third row of the grid sees Chris Davidson line up on the third row of the grid alongside Anthony Gauntlet, and row 4 is James Lederman and Adrian Wright. The fifth row of the grid, Neil Harrison lines up on row number 5 with Mike Hatton for company, and row 6 is going to be Chris Baldwin, who has got Simon Tate sitting alongside him. Row 7 of the grid, in 13th position, it's Bruno Costa, and 14th is Nigel Davis, with 15th being Bryn Tootle, and alongside is James Tanser. Row 9 of the grid sees Miles Castledini line up alongside James Rimmer, with row 10 being Terry Clark and Martin Wright. The 11th row of the grid is Victor Neumann, who's been a frustrated spectator. He's been a reserve in the previous races. He's got Phil Davis for company. And the next row of the grid in 23rd and 24th, it's Russ Giles and Jared Wood. The 13th row of the grid in 25th position, it's Darren Richards with Will McAteer sitting to his side, and row 14 sees Morgan McCourt line up alongside Chris Levy. The 15th row of the grid is Lee Fern and Juan Moreno, with row 16 being Tom Wheatley and Peter Whitmore, and the final two rows of the grid see Rodney Toft and Jeff Fern alongside Sam Dodd and David Jones line up towards the tail end of the field, and that gives you the full 36-car grid that we are allowed to start here at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit. We've seen wins so far this weekend for Dan Gore, who is going to start in 4th position on the grid, and a win earlier on today for which there was a slightly amended result issued, which saw penalties for some drivers issued. The race win, though, still went the way of Chris Davidson at the wheel of the car that will start on the third row of the grid, the inside of the third row of the grid. So starting from pole position is Jason Timms. I think mathematically he put the Mono 1400 Championship out of reach earlier on today. He'd been fighting away for that with Martin Wright. Now those two who were both in with a shout of it coming into this weekend. Jason Timms starts from pole, Martin Wright starts way down in 20th position on the grid at the wheel of the number 8 car. So it's the same really in Mono F3, which is still up for grabs between the number 10 car of Neil Harrison, who starts 9th on the grid, and the car of Lee Fern, who starts 29th on the grid at the wheel of the number 33 car. Now, Lee should make some progress in this race, one would have thought. The number 33 car, it's largely red with some white flashes to it. You can see it down towards the tail end of the field. In fact, is he there, Lee Fern? No, yes, he is. I can just see him, just see the car there. So Lee Fern is there on the grid. He'll just be heading in towards shot very, very shortly at the wheel of the number 33 car. There he goes there. You just see the Dayglow flashes to the front of the 33 car. So he is there on the grid, but I think he is, of all of those that is on the grid, probably the most out of position relative to the pace that he's got. David Jones in the Van Diemen RF83 will start from the tail end of the field. There are yellow and red waved flags on the approach, striped flags on the approach towards what is the Melbourne hairpin, suggesting that there was some oil put down there in one of the support races here. But we have got the final formation lap of the championship season underway. They do have the Monoposto Club, the Tidyman Trophy, which takes place over the course of the winter, but that is a separate championship. This is the last round of their championship proper as such, and who is going to come out on top with the final race win over the course of the final 15-minute lap that we will see. Red lights are on the gantry. Jason Timms and Chris Woodhouse line up on the front row of the grid, and as the lights go out, it is a good start from Jason Timms from pole position, but Dan Gore from the second row of the grid at the wheel of the lighter Jedi has got a rocket of a start, and he works his way up into second and might try and sweep for the lead of the race around the outside as they head towards Redgate Corner. He's not quite going to make it stick, I don't think, but the Jedi, yeah, from fourth up to second by the time they head onto the top of Hollywood. But it's Jason Timms that leads the race, Dan Gore in second place, Carl O'Brien is there in third place in the Lee Stone, and dropping down through the order was the man from the outside of the front row of the grid, which is Chris Woodhouse, I'm afraid to say, who didn't get the best of starts and is now outside of the top four places, having started second on the grid by the look of things. So out of McLean's corner and up towards Coppice for the first time. Dan Gore, I thought he was going to look for the lead of the race, and he does up the inside at Coppice Corner. Through goes Dan Gore from fourth on the grid. The Jedi leads the way. The motorcycle engine Delara of Jason Timms is in second place. The Lee Stone of Carl O'Brien is in third place, but under attack from Chris Davidson, who's come from fifth on the grid and is now up into third position at the wheel of his Delara. So they work their way through the corner. Problems, I'm afraid, off is Peter Whitmore, and the other car that's in the gravel trap there is the black and the Dayglow car of Jeff Fern, and both of those were in the gravel up at Coppice Corner. So they will have to be scooped out of harm's way, which may well require the intervention of a safety car. Now Chris Davidson is up into second place ahead of Carl O'Brien. Oh, and there's further contact there, and that is two cars then with suspension damage in the middle of the circuit, and that's on the exit of what will be the Melbourne hairpin, and further cars have got involved, I'm afraid. Juan Moreno has mounted one car that was already stricken in the middle of the circuit, so it's not just Coppice we need to worry about now. It is the exit of the Melbourne hairpin, where you could see and hear the crunch as the two cars came together. One facing the wrong way was caught by another, and I think Juan Moreno was probably unsighted as well and barged into the front of the car that was already sitting stranded with suspension damage in the middle of the track. So safety car out there. That is going to take a while to sort out. Right, one of them is Jared Wood, and the other car that has got involved is Morgan McCourt. So those are two cars that are also tangled up, and Jared Wood was looking to try and secure the Mono 2000 Classic category if he could. I think mathematically he might just about have done that. A non-finish for him means that he is going to drop 0 points, because you drop your 3 worst scores in this championship, so non-scoring in that one, it's strange the way drop scores work, has actually probably helped him, as strange as that sounds, because he will end the season on 119 points now, and even if Will McAteer secures victory in the class, Will not be able to catch that title, not be able to catch it, so he would end up on a maximum of about 114. So that Jared Wood, even with the retirement now, I think gives him the Mono 2000 Classic category. Right, and they're the other cars that are involved, the number 16 car. So there's actually 4 cars that have got involved in that incident on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin. So the number 16 car has also got snaffled up. So James Lederman is out. Juan Moreno is out. We saw Morgan McCourt was out, and also Jared Wood was out. So those are the 4 cars that all got tangled up. And I could only assume that there was another car that I thought was there, which was a black car that managed to get taffled up. But that car looks as though it has been able to continue potentially. I thought it might be Terry Clark, but I'm not convinced it was in the end. Now, I think that's Peter Whitmore heading towards us now. So he was in the gravel up at Coppice Corner. Yeah, it is. It's the number 70 car of Peter Whitmore that has continued. So of the 2 in the gravel up there at Coppice Corner, Peter Whitmore is back in the race. Jeff Fern, I think, is done for in this race. Yeah, you can see rear suspension damage to Jeff Fern's car. The right rear suspension hanging off. The recovery of the 4 cars at the exit of the Melbourne hairpin taking place, and that is a fair amount of damage to the front end of Juan Moreno's car, the Formula Renault car. So that is going to be it for him in this race, I'm afraid to say. So that is being winched out of harm's way. The stricken car of James Lederman still slap bang in the middle of the circuit, right at the exit point as well, so it's no wonder poor old James was collected by another car, because his car was right at the point you're looking to get back on the power and fire the car out of the corner. And certainly if poor old Juan Moreno was unsighted because of other cars around him, that is probably what caused him to, at the last minute, dive on the brakes, but nothing he could do, and the contact was inevitable. Now this is going to be not a reasonably long safety car period, but only now do we get the first car out of harm's way. We've still got another car slap bang in the middle of the circuit to scoop up, and I think all 4 cars of those that are tangled up there, James Lederman's car, Jared Wood's, Morgan McCourt's and Juan Moreno's, are all going to be just dispatched onto the grass on the right-hand side, which will be the inside as you exit the Melbourne hairpin, and as long as they're all up against the barriers, they should be relatively out of harm's way. So just to confirm then the order as we sit here under safety car in the final race of the season for the Monoposto Championship. Number 80, Dan Gore, leads the race under safety car. Second is Jason Timms. Now Dan Gore will be leading Mono 1000. Jason Timms in second place will be the leading Mono 1400 car. Third place will be the leading Mono F3 car, which will be number 31 car of Chris Davidson. Fourth place is going to be Carl O'Brien. Fifth is number 20, which is Anthony Gauntlet. Sixth is number 10, Mark Harrison. Seventh is for Chris Woodhouse, as James Ledman's car is very quickly moved out of the way. Eighth place is number 15, Simon Tate. Ninth place is 17, which is the car of Bruno Costa. And completing the top 10 at the moment is car number 71, which is Adrian Wright, that completes the top 10. So that's the order of the top 10. The class leaders that we've got that are outside of the top 10. Number 26, Bryn Tootle, leads Mono 2000 as things currently stand, and he is the current championship leader in Mono 2000, so is, I think, mathematically pretty much out of reach. He's got a drop score to consider, but he's dropping smaller scores than Terry Clark, his main championship rival, would be doing. So I think Bryn Tootle is now, subject to official confirmation, the Mono 2000 champion for this year. And the other class leaders that we need to worry about are Mono 1800 is number 12, which is Phil Davis, and Mono Classic is number 23, which is Will McAteer. Let's just say Will McAteer, I think, now at the wheel of that number 23 car, just heading through shot there. The white and multicoloured car is going to finish runner-up in the class in the end, despite the fact that his main championship rival, Jared Wood, has got involved in this 4-car accident at the exit of what was and is rather the Melbourne hairpin. So weaving from side to side, there might be a tiny last bit of sweeping up to do, but we might just get the safety car in at the end of this lap. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, lights are extinguished, so 4 rather frustrated looking drivers just watching on from the point at which their cars were forced into retirement. And as for Dan Gore, well, it's up to him to decide as to when he wants to get the race back underway, and he'll be looking, of course, for his second win of the weekend, and potentially, if he can finish on the podium in this race, it would be podiums in all 3 races, because he won the first race of the weekend, he finished 3rd in the second race of the weekend, and both of those have been class wins in the Mono 1000 class for the number 80 car, in the hands of the man who is already crowned, even before this weekend, the Mono 1000 champion for this year. So, out of Goddard, 7 minutes to go. So we lost a chunk of the race behind the safety car, but we're good to go. And what a great start from Dan Gore. He fires the car straight up towards Redgate Corner with already daylight between himself and Jason Timms in second place. Chris Davidson sitting there in 3rd place. Carl O'Brien ahead of Anthony Gauntlet's number 20. Jedi that sits there in 5th position, and Mark Harrison in the all-red Dallara completes the top 6 at the moment, but is a little bit of drift actually in 6th position. Only now does he head down through the bottom section of the Craner Curves, whilst already there are cars starting to disappear up the road ahead of him. There is the number 10 car running in 6th position Neil Harrison. Mark is out in the F3 Cup, which is another one of the races that we've got here over the course of this weekend. Now there's the number 71 car, which is Adrian Wright's car. mentioned about drivers being eligible to self-build cars for this championship, and Adrian Wright has done a good chunk of that over the years with his Gem AW3, so suggesting an AW3 is the third Gem that he's built for this championship. And they've always gone well, actually, the self-built cars that Adrian Wright has been able to produce. Now this is going to be James Rimmer. He is looking to see whether he might be able to sneak his way through and past the car ahead. Not quite going to be able to do it at the wheel of the number 27 Dallara, one of the earlier Formula 3 cars that we've got in the field. And Adrian Wright has just been picked off by Chris Baldwin there, who was able to squeeze his way through. See all the way down through the order, there's great fights going on, most of them inter-class fights, so Formula 3 cars fighting with Formula Classics or the Mono Classic cars. Will McAteer running side by side. I think that's Tom Wheatley is looking to try and squeeze his way through, but the Tom Wheatley car will stay ahead of Will McAteer as they thread their way through Goddard's corner. Over the start-finish line will now come. Now I mentioned about Lee Fern, he's in this pack here, he's the red car with the Dayglow flashes to the front of it, just heading through shot. I thought he might make some progress. Well, he's up 7 places on that last lap, 21st position. He started 29th, so beginning to make a little bit of progress and could be one to watch as the race wears on, but there's only 4.5 minutes remaining, I'm afraid. The safety car has somewhat interrupted his ability to thread his way through the order. James Rimmer is running second in Mono 2000 currently, the number 27 car, 18th overall. So it is one of the earlier Dallaras we've got in the field, harking back to 1992, and he's right behind the number 8 car of Martin Wright. So Martin Wright starting to feel the pressure a little bit as James Rimmer sits in the slipstream this time as they head in towards the braking area for the S's. He's far enough ahead, Martin Wright, so as to not overly worry as they turn their way left and right. Martin at the wheel of a Dallara with motorcycle engine in the back. Now Dan Gore has just posted the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far, 1 minute 31.438 from Dan Gore. Purple in every single sector, so perfect lap as far as he is concerned. 1 minute 31.4, and that is not quite as quick as the 1 minute 29 he was in yesterday. 1 minute 29.6 he posted yesterday, so he's still about 1 second shy of the fastest lap that we've seen all weekend from the Monoposto cars. They were slower in the earlier race today because the track conditions didn't allow it, but Dan Gore, who was already assured of the championship even before this weekend, is starting to run away and hide again a little bit now. 7 seconds is the advantage between himself and Jeremy Timms. 1000cc car, Mono 1000 car, beating Mono 1400, and that, I'm afraid, is Miles Castaldini, who has retired in exactly the same place, I think, as he retired in the race earlier on today. And that's an enormous shame for Miles Castaldini, because he was lying second in the Mono 1000 category coming into this weekend. But for Miles Castaldini, at the wheel of that number 78 car, that is his second retirement of the day, I'm afraid. So he is out of the race and out of championship contention, and might actually get overhauled by Anthony Gauntlet in terms of the point scoring. So could well be that Anthony finishes second in the Mono 1000 category in the championship for this season. And there's a relative gap first to second. Jason Timms has got Chris Davidson not too far behind, then the black car with the orange stripe down the centre in the hands of Anthony Gauntlet. Chris Davidson, the race winner from earlier on today. Dan Gore further raising the bar in terms of the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 31.238. There is an additional championship point for the fastest lap in each of the classes. But down through the old hairpin with 1 minute and 3/4 to go is Chris Davidson in third place, with, I think now, Jason Timms just starting to disappear up the road a little bit. But for Chris Davidson, he will certainly know that he has had the pace this weekend. It'd be great to see him in for the full championship season, Chris. We didn't see him at Castle Combe. He's had a few problems along the way as well, with a double retirement here at Donington Park earlier on in the season, and problems at Alton Park for round 7 of the championship. But arguably one of the quicker drivers in the field. Now this is Lee Fern. This is the car I said would make progress. He's only up to 19th at the moment. He's looking to try and thread his way past the car of Russ Giles. So Dallara F398 loses out to Dallara F301. Amazing how the design of the Dallara came on in 3 years, really, in Formula 3. If you look at James Rimmer's car, there's only 3 years between them, but just the aero on the car looks far more developed, doesn't it, than the car of Russ Giles that he's been able to squeeze his way through and past. So that's another place picked up for Lee Fern, puts him up to 7th in Mono F3, and that will put him up to 18th position overall in the race from what was 29th on the grid. So it has been a reasonable drive from Lee Fern. I thought of all of the cars, he was the one that was more out of position compared to anybody else. So the Scuderia Fern prepared car. Nice setup in the paddock that Lee has got as well. Heads in towards the braking area with just seconds to go. And for Dan Gore, well, he is going to be on course for a double victory this weekend and another victory in Mono 1000. He threads his way out of Coppice Corner and is about to head in towards the braking area for the S's for the final time. He's had a really consistent season. 8 class wins before this weekend. Well, he's added another 2 to that and is looking as though, out of the 13 races, he's going to have secured a class win in every single one, bar the 2 we had at Castle Combe, where I don't believe he entered. I'm not sure he entered those races. So it's been almost a clean sweep, really, in Mono 1000 for Dan Gore, who's been the man to beat and is going to head through the final corner up towards the checkered flag for the final time this season. The Monoposto Racing Club is checkered flag, and round 13 of the championship goes the way of Dan Gore. Comes through to claim his 2nd overall win of the weekend, his 3rd class win of the weekend. It's going to be Jason Timms who finishes in 2nd position. He's the Mono 1400 champion for this year. 3rd place goes away of Chris Davison. There's a spin coming out of the Melbourne hairpin for the final time. That was Simon Tate, who was running in 8th position but has had a rotation at the wheel of his Dallara F3024. So that will drop him down through the order. Anthony Gauntlet has finished 4th. It's going to be Neil Harrison in 5th, Chris Woodhouse in 6th place. 7th place, who is it going to be in 7th place? It should be, and is Carl O'Brien in 7th place. 8th place will be Victor Neumann, who came through from 21st on the grid, so that was a good result from Victor. Bryn Tootle finishes in 9th place, so that will secure him, without question, the Mono 2000 championship for this year, and Nigel Davies will complete the top 10 as the cars feed their way over the start-finish line. Simon Tate did get going again, but has dropped all the way down the number 15 car as it heads over the start-finish line, down into 19th position, I'm afraid to say, so that wasn't the result that he was after. So the cars making their way around the circuit on their slowing down lap. The last few cars about to head over the start-finish line, including car number 23, Will McAteer, who punches the air with delight. And the reason that Will McAteer is doing that is because he has just won the class. But I think if you take the drop scores into account, let's have a quick look. I think Jared Wood would still pick up the Mono Classic Championship. You drop your 3 worst scores. Well, Jared Wood will be dropping 3 non-scores now. So he would be adding to his tally over the course of this weekend. Will McAteer will be dropping 3 non-scores as well. It could be very close, actually, in Mono Classic. We might have to do an extra little bit of maths that I wasn't expecting to do, because the way the championship standings work for Monoposto is slightly complex with the 3 drop scores. Now, I still think that goes the way of Jared Wood. He was on 119 points coming into this race, and I think will still remain there. And for Will McAteer, you cannot accumulate any more than 16, so that would be it. And they're both dropping all 0 scores. So Will McAteer punching the air with delight, but that can only be because of the class win. So the car's heading in towards the pit lane area. We can guide you through the results for the final round of the Monoposto Championship for this year. It is a win, the 2nd of the weekend for Dan Gore. In 2nd place was Jason Timms, and 3rd went the way of Chris Davison. Anthony Gauntlet was there in 4th place with Neil Harrison in 5th, and Chris Woodhouse completed the top 6. 7th place is where we see the car of Carl O'Brien, with Victor Neumann finishing in 8th place, and Bryn Tootle and Nigel Davies completing the top 10. In 11th position, it was the first of the Wrights home, which was Martin Wright. In 12th place, it was the number 17 car of Bruno Costa. And then after that, we saw Chris Baldwin finishing in 13th place, Mike Hatton in 14th, Adrian Wright in 15th. And then Alex Rimmer finishing in 16th place. Lee Fern was 17th, Russ Giles was 18th. After the spin, Simon Tate finished in 19th. And just to give you the top 20 at least, it was Darren Richards that finished in 20th position. So that's it. The 2021 Monoposto Championship is done and dusted for this season. We look forward to seeing more from them in 2022. Goodbye.